Rabbi Manis Friedman. Hello. Thank God it's Tuesday. So happy to resume our programs. And hope everybody had a great holiday. It was everybody's holiday last Sunday. So, and during this holidays, something interesting came up at our dinner table, at our holiday table. And the conversation was about loving yourself. We spoke a number of times about properly loving others, love another as yourself. And apparently this was a very, very hard question for people to answer. What does it mean to love yourself? So that is the question that I'd like to raise with you today. Do we need to love ourselves? And if yes, then how do we do it properly?
Is it also a good thing to love yourself? Excuse me. What is the benefit of loving yourself? There's the comedian who says, the other day I was talking to myself, but I could tell that I wasn't being sincere. So if you love yourself, do you trust it? You really love yourself? It's a can of worms. Look, self-love is a given. Everyone loves themselves. Everyone. Because if you really didn't love yourself, you wouldn't wake up in the morning. You wake up in the morning because you love. Now, what exactly is this love? It's not romantic love. Should it even be called love? It's confusing. I love myself and I love you. It's not the same thing at all. It's a completely different sensation. Love is something that goes outwards. Self-love goes inwards. Completely different experience. And you can't go inwards and outwards at the same time. So if you're busy loving yourself, you cannot love anybody else. You can't be coming and going at the same time without getting totally confused. So actually, self-love is the condition we're born with, and hopefully, as we mature, we outgrow it. Maturity literally means, can you love someone besides yourself? It's a very good question, by the way. Because for many people, the answer is no. I can't love anyone besides myself. Now, this self-love can express itself in positive ways and in negative ways. Either because I love myself, I assume that I'm the greatest, the smartest, the most important. Or because I love myself, I am so disappointed that I'm not the smartest or the greatest or the most important, so now I'm all depressed. But the depression doesn't come from hating myself, it comes from loving myself. So, two things. First of all, self-love is a given. You don't have to learn to love yourself. That's so wrong and damaging. You don't learn to love yourself. You love yourself way too much from the moment of birth. Maybe even from the moment of conception. The trick in life is to move beyond yourself. That's what decency means. That's what morality means. That's what maturity means. Beyond yourself. And why do you have to go beyond yourself? Because as a child, there is no one besides you. A child is a very greedy, selfish, insensitive being. So it's a good thing they're cute, or we wouldn't tolerate them at all. So, is self-love important? Self-love exists. The question is, how do you move beyond it? So it's a little foolish to say, since I'm very depressed about myself and I hate myself and I have a very low self-image, I'm going to work on developing a high self-image. You're just exchanging one problem for another. The reason you're depressed and you hate yourself is because you're too busy with yourself. Too focused on yourself. You don't pass your own tests. You're too harsh on yourself. Everything is self. So developing a high self, either way, you're not going to have any friends. That's the point. If you're miserable and depressed, nobody's going to like you. And if you're arrogant and self-centered, nobody's going to like you. So what's the difference? The healthiest self is one that doesn't need attention. And we know this. We know this from life. The most delightful people to spend time with are those who are not busy with themselves. They don't have a high self-image, they don't have a low self-image. They're just not busy with themselves. They're delightful. They're uncomplicated, they're not messy, they're not high maintenance. You don't have to watch everything you say. So, the real solution is, there is so much more to life than me. Why would I spend half the time thinking about myself? Well, more than half. So the healthiest attitude is, whatever I am, I am. Let's talk about something interesting.
Rabbi Friedman, it's funny that the reason why this question came up was that, women prepare for the holidays and they do it with lots of love for their families and lots of love for God. I mean, if we're talking about a holy holiday table. And the conversation came up is that it's easy. Some people said, I can do this for myself too. I can cook for myself with love and it's going to be amazing. And I came to a realization that for myself, I'm good with a hard-boiled egg. So that is the question. Is it self-hate in a way, or it doesn't matter? What is that healthy? Not to care so much, to make it. I mean, the question is that a healthy attitude or not? Because there has to be a fine line somewhere there.
No one I know is in danger of starving because they don't feed themselves, because they don't love themselves. You're not going to starve. Guaranteed, you're not going to starve. When you get hungry, you'll eat whatever you need. Right? But to put thought into it and to make plans and to... No, nobody likes that. And this silly advice, this pop psychology, prepare a beautiful meal for yourself, pamper yourself, you'll be happy. No, you won't. You'll be so depressed. The more you pamper yourself, the more depressed you become. Because there's no virtue in feeding yourself. That's just an organic need. There's nothing to be proud of, nothing to be... Will you boast? Yesterday I made myself such a beautiful breakfast. Come on, nobody does that. But if you made someone else a beautiful breakfast, it's something to be proud of. Because there's something noble about serving others. There's nothing noble about feeding yourself. You just have to do it, so you do it. It's not a party when you're by yourself. Unless you're really a narcissist. I mean, no, we would much rather serve someone else than serve ourselves. That's a healthy attitude. I know myself, I'll take care of myself, don't worry about me, okay? What can I do for the rest of the world?
Rabbi Friedman,
That's maturity. Yeah.
but isn't there even some sort of a balance in this? I mean, to take care of yourself for health reasons, for looking attractive, for it's just, you have to take care of yourself. You can't just wake up and start caring of others. It's very noble, but is it healthy?
I think it is. People who are busy taking care of others are healthier. Isn't that true? Nurses, doctors, they're healthy people. And those who are jogging all the time and going to Pilates and going to yoga and going on diets and eating this and drinking that, and they're never healthy. I think with yourself, keep it at a minimum. Eat when you need to eat, sleep when you need to sleep. Don't make a big deal about it. But with others, it's always a big deal. Even serving your grandmother a cup of tea. It is so healthy for you. It energizes you, it ennobles you, it inspires you. You're alive. Make yourself a cup of tea, you're just surviving.
Well, then the obvious question is, don't we need to survive to serve others?
Yes. So have a cup of tea. But don't make a ceremony out of it.
What about looking good, being presentable, keeping yourself up?
Yeah. But how much time are you going to put into it? It very easily becomes obsessive.
It did. It became very unhealthy in our society. One of those things that is very misleading. There's too many emphasis on how to be healthy, how to look good, what is the proper form to be in order to be accepted by the society. And, there are standards. There are high standards in our society of how a person should look, eat, exercise, feel, and all of those good things. Are those good things? That's the question. But there are societal standards. What do we do with those societal standards?
Well, like everything else in society, you laugh at it. Everything popular in society is probably superficial, artificial, plastic. Culture is not whatever happens to be. That's not culture. That's a lack of culture. There's actually a couple came to see me for marriage counseling. They were having a difficult time. And the reason was she was a truly beautiful woman. But he felt that a little plastic surgery could make her perfect. She said, I don't want surgery. And he's angry at her. And their marriage is on the rocks over this. interesting. I asked her, just to be the devil's advocate, I said, your husband is asking you for a simple favor. It's not a risky surgery. It's not open heart surgery. It's a little plastic surgery. So do the surgery and he'll love you. She said, he won't love me. He's living a fantasy. He's got some kind of an image that he wants to have. He doesn't want me. And it was the first time she realized that was what really bothered her. And he realized what he was asking for. And he was so embarrassed. And this is your problem in life? The man was studying to be a rabbi. Anyway, yeah, we're way overboard on that.
Rabbi Friedman, but we do put a lot of emphasis, we read about it in the Torah, on beauty. We read about how beautiful Sarah was. We read about how incredibly handsome Yosef was, that women were tripping over themselves when they saw him. There is a lot of emphasis on looks in the Torah. And it's made to be very important and emphasized. What should we take away from it? Isn't that our example? Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Yosef being beautiful, but the Torah is critical of him and says that he was guilty of childish behavior. What was his childish behavior? He combed his hair. He had beautiful hair. What more do you want? No, he has to comb it a certain way. That was already considered childish. You're beautiful as you are. Why you wallow in it? I think it's actually a fact that people who are perfectly content with their looks look better than people who are trying to be beautiful. Beauty, a big part of beauty, is the lack of stress. In the peacefulness. I mean, beauty is hard to define exactly what is it that makes a person beautiful. But a big part of it is the innocence. Why is every baby beautiful? It's not because their noses are perfect, or because their faces are symmetrical, or whatever else they say makes beauty. They're beautiful because they're so innocent that it's a pleasure to look at them. As they get older, now they have complexes, and they have moods, and they have self-consciousness. Now it's uncomfortable to look at them because they're uncomfortable with themselves. So people who are relaxed about their looks are better looking. Those who are trying to be perfect are hard to look at. They're too, afraid to smile because they'll get wrinkles. So, I think the pop psychology is leading us in the opposite direction of everything good and healthy and enjoyable.
I do believe that this conversation is probably too foreign for a lot of people who are listening to us right now, because it's very hard to grasp how it is not to have something delicious for yourself, that is how a person expresses love to themselves. Something tasty, going shopping, doing something good for themselves.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't eat what they think is delicious? No one needs to be encouraged. It's like Jackie Mason says, you don't need to develop a taste for potato chips. It tastes good, so you eat it. You don't have to be educated to enjoy the food you enjoy. So
we're just reiterating the obvious. Is that what we're doing in our day, in this day and age?
I think we don't realize what self-love is. You don't need to be impressed with yourself in order to love yourself. You do need to be impressed with others in order to love them. But for yourself, you don't need that. You can call yourself all sorts of names and accuse yourself of all sorts of failures and really be critical of yourself and love yourself completely. We all do. So the fact that you're down on yourself doesn't mean you don't love yourself. It just means you're too busy with yourself. I was talking to a guy, very, very wealthy guy, who can't believe how rich he is, and he has to prove how irresistible he is to women. So he's a total playboy. And he runs after every famous, good-looking woman. So he's telling me about it. So I said, so who's the most recent woman? And he mentions the name. I said, so you're going to marry her? He says, no. I said, if you can get the most beautiful woman, why not marry her? He said, I don't like her. I said, okay, so if you're going to be honest, none of these beautiful women are lovable, aren't they? They're not lovable. They're too aware of themselves, too busy with themselves. They're not nice people. So once you can prove that you can get them, that's all it is. Next, move on. Because they're not pleasant people. They would not make a good wife.
He wouldn't make a good husband either.
That's right. And he's not particularly good looking. He's just rich. So it's such a myth. Hollywood, Madison Avenue. The more beautiful you are, the better your life will be? No way. And I've heard this growing up when people would say about a daughter, a friend's daughter, oh, that's terrible. She's so good looking. Poor girl. She's going to have a very hard time. If you're too good looking, it's a problem. Especially if you're aware. You have to overcome that. So in the Torah, going back to what you were asking, in the Torah, all the people the Torah says were beautiful couldn't care less. See, Vashti was good looking, but she was very aware. It cost her life. So Sarah was beautiful. It wasn't an issue for her.
It was for Abraham. He had to lie about it, not to get killed.
Or only when in Egypt. Where beauty is not appreciated properly, you have to deal with it.
See, this is another question. What is the proper appreciation of beauty? Because now we have certain standards that we have to abide by, and everybody comes out looking plastic because they have very similar approach to beauty.
Yeah. Beauty is a divine gift. Anything beautiful, nature, a beautiful scene, it's a gift. But if you see a beautiful field, do you have to buy it? It has to become yours? Not really. You meet somebody who's got a beautiful character, so you have to have sex with them? No. If they have a beautiful mind, if they're really brilliant and insightful, you have to have sex with them? No. But if they're good looking, you have to have sex with them. What is that? What is the association? It's corruption. It's corrupting even beauty. Beauty is something you enjoy looking at. You don't have to own it. Or conquer it. Or abuse it.
Rabbi Friedman, I took this question about self-love to the synagogue as well, because I was wondering what would be the answers there. And the answer was pretty unanimously that self-love is about connection to God and following what is good. That brings love to oneself. Is that a good answer? Is that a correct answer? Or is there something wrong with that answer too?
I'm not sure what it means. If I love God, I love myself.
If I do what God wants me to do, I am in good state of being. And that's love, that's balance, that's love, that's self-love. Translates into self-love. Could that be?
No, it's actually transcending self. If your pleasure comes from serving someone else, then you have gotten past yourself. So now you love your life, you don't love yourself. And that's really the even in raising children, the process of raising children is they're already in love with themselves. What else can you get them to love besides themselves? Even to get them to love their siblings is an accomplishment. To love their grandparents is an accomplishment. To love their teachers, that is very mature. So, raising children means raising them above themselves. They love themselves, they're busy with themselves, they cherish themselves, they're the most important thing to themselves. Okay, now raise them from there to a better place. But don't cater. Don't pamper. They don't need it. And let me put it different way. You can't get them to love themselves more than they do, because they love themselves infinitely. You can't love yourself more than you love yourself. So when the Torah says, love your fellow Jew like you love yourself, it means you know you love yourself. Now, can you give some of that away? Can you share that with others? Or are you going to keep it all for yourself?
Rabbi Friedman, but why do so many people hurt themselves? If they love themselves, why do they hurt themselves?
What did they say? You always hurt the one you love? Starting with yourself. You know, why do we overeat? Because we love ourselves. So if you don't balance that love with a little discipline, you're going to actually hurt yourself from overindulgence.
But it's not discipline when people are hurting themselves emotionally and physically.
Right.
Is that also discipline?
It is love. It's a lack of discipline.
Can you explain that a little bit deeper, please?
Well, like narcissism, which is an extreme condition, means you love yourself so much you can't even do what you need for yourself. It's like, you know, if you loved yourself, you would make an appointment and go see a doctor. No, I'm too lazy. What does that mean? I love myself, so I will not go out of my way or out of my comfort zone. It'll hurt me? Well, too bad. That's narcissism. I will develop bad habits. I'll take drugs. I'll mess around. Why? Because I feel like it. Yeah, but it's not good for you. Too bad. Too bad. If I like it and I feel like it, I cannot stop myself. That's love. But very unhealthy. And we know, like when you're a, what is it called? An enabler or a codependent. You won't criticize your husband and you won't demand that he stay away from drugs because you love him. Yeah, you do love him. You just don't have any discipline. So we know that that's not healthy. We do it for ourselves, to ourselves. It's just as unhealthy, but it is self-love. It's a love I can't help. Can't get past it. I can't rise above it.
Rabbi Friedman, what about these great qualities that most Jewish people have, which is guilt? We really, really hurt ourselves emotionally with that one. So how does that translate into love or discipline?
I know a young man came to me many years ago crying. He just had a baby. A little boy was born with a lot of medical complications. Scary. He came crying from the hospital. He said, "What did I do wrong? I must have sinned. I must have done something terrible." I said, "Yeah, you did something terrible. You left your wife in the hospital. You want to be guilty and you want to do tshuva, wait for Yom Kippur. Right now, go take care of your child." So all of a sudden, now you're going to do tshuva? When someone else needs you, you're busy with your own guilt? So inappropriate. Do tshuva in your spare time, not at somebody else's expense. it's an important piece of truth. The more you love yourself, the less you love anybody else. Self-love prevents love. Self-importance prevents respect. If you're busy being impressed with yourself, then you have no respect for anybody else. Because you can't be going in and out at the same time. So self-love, self-respect, I don't mean the healthy self-respect. That's like a black hole, a star that instead of giving off light, sucks up its own light. So it's not true that the more you love yourself, the more you'll love others. It's such a silly statement. I can't even believe people fall for it. The more you love yourself, the more you're capable of loving others. You don't even have time to love others.
But it's very common these days that people question if they love themselves or not. Big question these days. No one really knows if they love themselves or not. No one thinks it's a default state. How can we convince people that they do?
I once asked somebody who said that they don't love themselves. I said, so did you roll out of bed accidentally in the middle of the night? No. How come? Because even when you're asleep, you're protecting yourself.
How?
Why don't adults roll off the bed like children do? Why don't adults need a crib to sleep in? Because even while they're asleep, when they get to the edge of the bed, they stop. Their subconscious protects them. Because they love themselves. Because they're precious to themselves. To go to an extreme, even a person who wants to kill himself is because they love themselves. If life is painful and you're not willing to put up with pain, that's self-love. If I can't have the life I want, then I don't want life at all. What is that? Humility? No, it's self-love. So, I don't think there's ever been a human being in the world who did not love himself. Without self-love, you don't live.
So, Rabbi Friedman, just to summarize, then the proper self-love is just don't pay attention to it?
Yeah.
I think we surprised a lot of people today.
I think people try to recall, when did you have a really, really good day? A really good hour? If you think about it, it's when you got excited about something and forgot about yourself. Why, when you're doing something really important, does time fly? You don't even realize you've been doing it for hours. And what feels so good about that is that you didn't think of yourself for hours. It's liberating. That's called transcendent. You had a transcendent experience. You went for an hour without thinking about yourself. It feels heavenly.
Rabbi Friedman, last question, because this is very. I'm sure it's we're breaking the rules of the thought that we were kind of conditioned to have for the last few decades, if not more. So the question is, being somewhere on vacation, lying under a palm tree, with a lot of sun, warm sun hitting you, taking a swim in the beautiful blue waters, and feeling amazingly good. We're aware of ourselves at that time and how good the self feels. What is that? Is that healthy? Is this love for ourselves, or is this something else? Because that feels pretty like a loving moment with thyself.
Well, it may be motivated by love, but what it is pleasure. You're feeling pleasure. Whether it's from the air or from the food or from the company, from whatever gives you pleasure. Now, why do you do things that give you pleasure? Because you love yourself. But nobody walks around feeling noble. Wow, I had a really good nap. Okay, fine. Well, not something to be proud of. It's not like you live to take a nap. So the things you would live for, those are the important things. How you live, whatever works. But that's not where the importance, the significance, or your commitment should lie. Be committed to what you can do for others. And in your spare time, do whatever you need to do for yourself. But don't call it a party.
Rabbi Friedman, amazing. Thank you so much. I think this was an incredibly healthy and helpful conversation for those who can break their thinking, the thinking that society has conditioned us to think in a certain way. So hopefully this conversation was good for many people who have listened to this program and who will listen to this program later on in the social media and in all the channels, especially yours. Thank you so much for all the information that you give us on your channels, on itsgoodtoknow.org, on your YouTube channels, and then there's so many books that you have written that have this healthy approach to life. It's so amazing. Thank you so much for everything that you give our society, which really needs to become healthier in this day and age. Thank you so much.
Healthy is the right word. If you're convinced that you don't love yourself, you're unhealthy. Not because you don't love yourself, but because you think you don't love yourself. Everyone loves themselves. Now, what else can we talk about?
I'm sure we'll come up with a few good things with everything that's going on in the world. Rabbi Friedman, thank you again so much. It's amazing. Thank you for this time that you allocate.
Thank you.